Hello everyone, I'm JC Nolan and you are listening to Blood and Ink, a horror genre podcast. Have you ever come across a dark and evil road and wondered, well, how am I going to survive this? Our Fright Bite today has you covered with a survival guide for just this scenario. Afterwards, we're going to recap and review the first episode of the new Black Mirror season, but don't worry, you don't have to pay any more to stream that portion of the show. And as always, we will end with our book club and catch up with how our favorite and not so favorite characters are surviving in Stephen King's The Stand. Plus, we get to meet a couple of new characters, so that's cool. As always, if you want to send in your own short story to be read aloud on the pod or suggestions for future movies and book reviews, you can email those over to bloodinkpodcast@gmail.com. And please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It will really help out the show as we're just getting out on our feet, and it would simply just make my day. So go ahead and do that. Before we get into all the fun today, some horror news. Warner Brothers confirms a new Gremlins film. Chris Columbus, writer of the original Gremlins, produced by Steven Spielberg, he is developing the new film and described the script as twisted and dark. In addition to this, Warner Brothers also confirms the sequel to Beetlejuice. So we have that to look forward to in the near future. Stephen King's publishing Never Flinch. That's coming out May 27th, and that follows Detective Izzy Janes and Holly Gibney after the police department receives a disturbing letter saying 13 innocents and 1 guilty will be killed. This is the 4th book in the Holly Gibney series, and if you're familiar with this all takes place in the Bill Hodges trilogy universe. Last thing on our news, now I'm gonna wreck this name. Augustina Besterriccia. Wow, that was rough. Well, she was the writer of Tender is the Flesh, but she also has a novel, The Unworthy, and this was recently translated and published in English back in March. It's a short read, only 92 pages. I haven't read it yet, but I definitely want to, so I just wanted to put that out there for anybody that likes her work. So without further ado, let us get into our Fright Bites. Today's story is titled, If You're Driving Alone at Night and the Road Signs Start to Distort, You've Entered Seven Turns Road. Here's How to Survive. Written by Reddit handle Spades_writes. If you ever find yourself driving alone at night, maybe after a night drinking with friends, getting off work late, or pushing yourself to reach a destination, refusing to stop for rest, and suddenly you're on a road that doesn't appear on your GPS or map, unsure how you even got there, you may have unknowingly been selected by Seven Turns Road. Take a deep breath and follow this guide exactly. I've traveled this road myself many times. First off, you need to understand something. You were chosen, and I have no idea why. There are no rituals, no secret incantations, or hidden routes to memorize. Believe me, I've looked for patterns. I've tried to outsmart it, and I've failed every time. The truth is simple and unsettling. You'll never find Seven Turns Road intentionally. It finds you. At first, it's subtle. After making just one turn, your original route blends seamlessly into an endless stretch that feels both familiar and surreal. It doesn't matter where you were originally heading. You'll know with absolute certainty you're truly on Seven Turns Road when the temperature abruptly plummets, and road signs blur, warp, or become nonsensical, dreamlike symbols, distorted letters, upside-down markers. You'll feel it deep in your gut. Don't fixate on the signs. That's how it tricks you into losing control. You can slow down, even stop briefly. Hell, if panic sets in hard enough, you can step outside for a breath, but never, ever make it a habit. Those who get comfortable leaving their vehicle don't tend to survive. Read carefully, memorize these steps, and accept the reality you've entered. The only path out is straight ahead. Continue along the road. Wherever you started will feel somewhat familiar, yet increasingly distant. Eventually, This stretch will lead you to a second turn. Your car's radio will switch on automatically. Attempts to turn it off or adjust the volume will fail. At first, you'll hear faint white noise that gradually evolves into a woman's soft muttering. Indecipherable gibberish that slowly transforms into coherent words, spilling out your darkest secrets. Hidden truths you've told no one. I was terrified the first few times, but I kept my eyes glued to the road. Your headlights are your only illumination, and you cannot afford to crash. Ignore the woman and drive until the next turn appears. By the third turn, any lingering familiarity of your surroundings will vanish entirely. A dense, oppressive forest will surge upwards, its thick, tangled branches arching overhead to form an almost suffocating canopy, enclosing you completely. On either side of the road, animals will appear, standing impossibly still. A fox, a squirrel, a bear, a bird, all fixed like grotesque statues. Their empty, hollow eyes will lock onto your every movement, heads slowly pivoting in unnatural synchronization as your vehicle passes. Keep driving. Do not acknowledge them. They aren't animals, not anymore. They're mere husks, puppeteered by the road itself as it silently watches. If curiosity compels you to glance again, and trust me, you shouldn't, you'll notice these husks beginning to distort, melting as if made from wax beneath a relentless flame. Fur sloughs away in thick, wet clumps, revealing slick, gleaming surfaces beneath like dark chitinous exoskeletons. Eyes liquefy, dribbling slowly from their sockets in streams of viscous decay. The forest around you fills with the sickly sound of dripping, the quiet cracks and pops of joints shifting beneath unraveling skin. Eyes forward. Keep your foot steady on the gas. Pretend you don't see them, because I assure you, they see you. At the fourth turn, your fuel gauge will begin to plummet alarmingly fast. Your headlights will flicker intermittently. Remain calm. The road is enticing you to exit your vehicle. Do not. You're safe if you remain inside. Your speedometer will become erratic, but maintain a steady, comfortable speed. The radio's whispering will grow louder, clearer. The woman's voice will narrate every tiny detail of your existence. Each blink, heartbeat, every breath you take, even the sweat dripping down your back onto your seat. Pay her no mind. Your focus must remain solely on the road until the next turn. On the fifth turn, a gentle snowfall begins, serene at first, softly coating your car. Normally, it might be calming, but the snow quickly intensifies. You'll notice your hearing fading alongside the thickening snowfall. The harsh winds buffeting your vehicle will abruptly stop. Your engine sounds will disappear, followed by your own panicked breathing. All you have left is a faint ringing in your ears. Visibility deteriorates until your headlights barely illuminate the blizzard. The snow goes on endlessly, miles upon miles. Do not look to the sides. Those silent, shadowy silhouettes will crawl towards your slowly moving car, attempting to pry their way inside or distract you into veering off the path. If you panic and leave the road, there's no returning. Some shadows will dash suddenly in front of your car. My advice? Pretend like they're not there and keep driving. Eventually, you'll encounter a sign, ever-changing, surreal, similar to those at the first turn. Each glance away alters its appearance, but it signals your sixth turn. Right after passing this shifting sign, turn right immediately. Do not miss it. On the sixth turn, your hearing will gradually return. The relentless snowstorm, which seemed eternal, will abruptly cease, melting away rapidly and leaving you alone on the road. The road itself will deteriorate, becoming rough and worn before shifting into gravel. Your car will shake violently, rattling over every pebble and rock. Soon these sounds will grow louder, heavier, disturbingly similar to the snapping and breaking of bones beneath your tires. An open field will suddenly stretch out around you, filled with hundreds, perhaps thousands of tall, dark figures. Initially, you might mistake them for dead, leafless trees, but they will begin to slowly, unsteadily move toward your vehicle. The smallest of these entities towered nearly 10 feet, while the largest stretched close to 20. Their elongated forms resembled charred bone fused with twisted bark. They possess smooth, featureless faces and deep, hollow mouths, emitting anguished voices, cries, screams, and pleas of those you've loved, lost, or failed. You'll feel an overwhelming urge to stop and help them. Resist it. Accelerate as quickly as possible. The sound of cracking bones beneath your wheels combined with the sorrowful cries will make this turn one of the worst you've encountered. While slow, they will inch closer. Speed past them. As you approach the final turn, a profound sense of relief and accomplishment will flood through you. You'll feel as if you've narrowly escaped digestion by something monstrous and spat back out into safety. This turn will be deceptively beautiful, almost rewarding, adorned with climbing roses and vibrant flowers. Euphoria will briefly fill you until your headlights begin to flicker. Your dashboard lights flash erratically, and every warning signal activates simultaneously. Your vehicle will abruptly die, coasting to a complete stop. With one final flicker of your headlights, utter darkness, deeper than any you've known, will consume you. This is the final test. The road will determine your fate. Remain inside, silent and still. You'll soon hear tapping and knocking against windows, doors, even beneath your car. Countless entities will circle and inspect your vehicle, breathing heavily and scratching at the exterior. Hold tightly to your steering wheel. Do not brake or attempt to restart your car. Your car will begin shifting as they're pushing it towards something immense. You'll hear shuffling footsteps rapidly retreat, fearful. Then something massive will open wide. Though invisible in the darkness, you'll sense its enormity. Your car will shift downwards, your stomach plummeting as adrenaline floods your veins. A sudden drop will follow. Your vehicle will slowly descend into something terrible, crushing and grinding around you. You'll hear the car being chewed apart, the metal shredding. Sharp edges will puncture through the floor, roof, and sides. Something will scrape your flesh. The vehicle will compress tighter, the roof pressing inches from your face, the sound of destruction deafening. Then, with a final sickening spin, you'll plummet, spiraling until consciousness fades. You'll awaken gasping on a quiet roadside, the exact place 7 Turns Road first claimed you. Feel the grass, the dirt beneath your fingers. Breathe deeply. You've survived, for now. But surviving once doesn't mean freedom forever. I've traveled this road more times than sanity should allow, and each escape comes at a heavier price. Keep this guide safe, because the road won't forget you. Even as I finish typing this from the supposed safety of my driveway, I look up, and where my house should be stands an endless road stretching onward, signs distorted and beckoning. 7 Turns Road calls me again. So what do you think? Do you guys think you would survive 7 Turns Road? I think I would be okay with the distorted signs. I think I could make it past that because I wear glasses anyway, and them signs always looking a little distorted. Creatures coming up to me, voices in the car. I don't know. I don't know if I'd survive. Definitely not getting out of the car, but I might not make it to the end of the road. Not even that the road would kill me, but I think I would just have a heart attack. So, hopefully I don't have to ever use that survival guide. But it's there now if you guys need it. Okay, moving on, we're going to recap and review Black Mirror, Season 7, Episode 1. That episode is called Common People. And I do want to warn you, there are spoiler alerts ahead. Spoiler alerts ahead. So if you have not seen that episode yet, I really don't want to ruin it for you, so go ahead and skip forward. I'll give you guys a second. Waiting. Alright, let's get into it. So this episode was written by Charlie Brooker and Bisha K. Alley, directed by Ali Panku. And it starts off with a cute couple waking up inside, being goofy together. This couple is comprised of Rashida Jones, who's playing Amanda, and Chris O'Dowd, who plays her husband, Mike. After having their cute mornings and their moments together, Amanda, who is a teacher, goes to work at her school and is shown teaching about robotic bees. This is really funny because it's a callback to an older episode, an episode from Season 3 called Hated in the Nation. That's episode number 6. But let's move forward. It's Mike and Amanda's anniversary today. He picks her up after school to go on an anniversary trip that they take every year to a lodge called Juniper Lodge, and that's in their neighboring county. When Mike picks her up, by the way, really funny scene where he's doing this ridiculous, stupid stretches, and I don't know, just made me giggle. But like I said, that lodge is called Juniper Lodge. This again is a callback to Season 3, specifically an episode called San Junipero. Anyway, back at the lodge, we realize Amanda is trying to get pregnant. It seems that they have tried in the past and possibly had some issues, but she's ready to try again. So they get a little down and dirty, and afterwards, Amanda gets a sudden, quick onset of a headache. She takes what appears to be some prescribed medication for it, and that kind of ends the scene. We fast forward an unknown amount of time, but I'm guessing no longer than a month. Amanda and Mike are back home, and she tells Mike that she did get her period, and she regrets buying all the baby supplies that they had bought so early. They're standing in front of a crib when they have this conversation, and seems like they just got excited and started a little early on, choosing out some baby stuff. Mike goes to work. He seems to be a steel worker or something along these lines. Well, he goes to work, and a coworker who is slacking off shows him a website called Dumb Dummies. This is a website where people stream themselves doing dumb and often painful things requested by an online audience for money. We move over to Amanda, who is in class and teaching, when she suddenly passes out and is rushed to the hospital. There we learn she has a brain tumor that is inoperable and she is likely not going to wake up. The doctor explains to Mike that there is a new experimental procedure and gets him in touch with the representative. The representative is from a new company called Rivermind, and she explains the procedure to Mike, basically saying that the affected area of brain tissue is copied and then backed up onto one of their Rivermind servers. The area that is affected in her brain will be replaced with synthetic brain matter that can pick up the signal sent from the Rivermind towers. This seems to act similar to phone towers, and Amanda will need to stay in the coverage range. So the representative is showing Mike the maps of the coverage range. They're just starting off, so it's not a huge coverage range, but hey, she's going to be alive. This representative also informs Mike Amanda will need to sleep about an extra 2 hours a day just to reduce that impact on their servers. And finally, we get to the cost. So the surgery is free, but the cost for the streaming service that would be a portion of her mind is $300 a month. Well, this is obviously a lot of money for them. Again, Amanda's a teacher and Mike is some sort of steel worker, but I don't think he's making a lot of money. They seem to be a very average, low-income family. But, what is Mike supposed to do? He's her husband, and it's, hey, either this or your wife is going to die, so he accepts. So, I'm going to pause here for a second to go over some of my thoughts. Again, Mike has accepted these costs because what else is he supposed to do? But I would have additional questions here. What happens if he misses a payment? What if their servers go down? Or there's a technical issue? Does Amanda just die? And lastly, I'd be worried about my wife or spouse or significant other getting hacked. Could you imagine people having the ability to hack other people and then using them for crime, or even the government being able to hack people and use them for warfare? Just some interesting thoughts there. And then I want to talk about what's happening in this medical facility. First, this is a failure of the medical system, and it's something I find extremely frustrating, even in real life. Again, if you don't know, I work as a medic firefighter, so I'm around doctors and insurance and patients and things like that all the time. So, Amanda has a history of sudden headaches, and this has been going on long enough that she's been prescribed medication for this issue. So, why was it that this tumor was able to grow and go undiscovered for such a long period of time? Well, I can tell you why, simply because it just wasn't assessed. Whether it be an insurance issue, like the insurance is not covering certain procedures, like an MRI or CAT scan or something like that, or negligence by medical staff, this could have been caught and possibly dealt with earlier. But just like we see so often in our medical systems, they're not really interested in treating the cause or treating that root thing that's happening, because that will get rid of your customer. If they treat the systems, they have a customer for life. And that's kind of exactly what has happened here. And I also want to point out that the doctor sent him to this representative without having enough information to fully do so and know the possibilities of what he was going for. But I digress. That's just a little of my own thing. Let's continue. We fast forward through a year of Amanda and Mike living a relatively normal life. Amanda is sleeping much more. She finds that she's always feeling a little tired, and Mike is exhausted from working tons of overtime to cover the monthly cost. It's their anniversary again, and Mike surprises Amanda with a trip back to Juniper Lodge. Even though she worries about not being able to afford it, he's trying to surprise her. They're on their way, and they begin to argue on their way to the lodge because of the cost. Amanda, on this drive, she suddenly passes out. So Mike whips the car around to drive her to the hospital. And once they get back a certain ways back, she wakes back up. So they're thinking that there's some sort of issue with the software or maybe with the server. So they visit the representative again that explains that a lot of their towers are just being upgraded. That's all it was. And the couple went out of their coverage range. Well, Mike is very confused. He says, no, I checked the maps. That should have been part of our coverage range. Well, the tower that covered that area was upgraded and is part of a new service that extends their coverage range and is called Rivermind Plus. This rollout covers most, if not all, of America, and an upgraded cost of an additional $500 a month if they would like to do that. So this is a total now of $800 a month if they decide to go with the Rivermind Plus. If they do not upgrade, they will stay on their current subscription tier, which is now called Riverside Common, but they will have to stay within their county because that is going to be the only coverage area that they have. Again, Mike and Amanda are not made of money, so they decide to stay on the Riverside Common subscription tier. Amanda goes home, and this is where we see our first ad being streamed through Amanda, and this ad is for coffee beans. When this happens, Amanda has no recollection of saying the ad, and they don't understand at first what's happening. Mike's just kind of like, wait, what did you say? And Amanda's like, what are you talking about? I didn't say anything. So this happens a couple of times until she gets in trouble at school. She's back teaching a class when a student comes to her looking for some family advice, and an advertisement for a Christian religious organization comes from Amanda. And because of this issue, she's now at risk for losing her job. So they take a trip back to the Rivermind representative, who explains that the ads are now part of the common tier, and they need to upgrade to the Plus tier if they don't want ads. Well, they don't have the money to really do that, so this is where we come back to that Dumb Dummies website that Mike's coworker showed him. Well, he decides to join that website and begins making money there to upgrade Amanda to the Plus. He does this for some time and ends up doing some pretty rough things for money. One of them being putting a mousetrap on his tongue, which was not shown, but almost. It was kind of funny in this scene too, because it was a total internet scene where people are yelling at him to like, put it on your dick. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. But Amanda's still not sleeping well and seems to be sleeping for extra time than what they expected, even when she has been upgraded to this Rivermind Plus. Again, they take a trip back to the representative, who explains that, well, Amanda is sleeping extra due to the firmware upgrade, and the issue is that she's not actually sleeping, but she's in sleep mode. What does this mean? Well, the energy that Amanda gets throughout the day from these servers, when she's sleeping at night, she's actually sending that energy back to power the server and power other people's minds when she's in sleep mode. So how do we rectify this? Well, guess what? There's a new ultra premium subscription tier called Rivermind Lux. I would like to point out here that the woman they got to play the representative is awesome, because you really start out like believing her and just trusting her, and she was such a good saleswoman, and then by this point you're kind of like, oh, I hate you. You're a bad person. You're doing bad things. But I digress. So the representative shows them a commercial that basically explains how Rivermind Lux works. It explains that their senses will be increased, and through an app she can even dial in different emotions. So say she wants to feel extra peaceful today, she can dial that up. Not only can she do that, but she can also use the attributes and skills based off of other people in the Rivermind server. So say there's some guy named Todd, and he's really good at golfing, and you want to go golf today. Well, you can use some of Todd's skill in golfing and put that in through your app, and now you would have the same skill as him. Of course, this tier comes at an additional cost, and that's an additional $1,000 a month. So again, it was $500 for the common. No, I'm sorry, $300 for the common, $500 additional dollars for the pro, and now an additional $1,000 a month for the Lux. That comes to a total of $1,800. Again, Mike and Amanda cannot afford this, but Mike is able to get Amanda a 12-hour Lux extension pack, I think is what it was called, and Amanda uses this when they go back to Lodge Junipero for their anniversary. Amanda uses this Lux extension pack and dials her pleasure all the way up, and things get really weird. So much so that Mike doesn't like it, and he can't even get jiggy with Amanda right now because she's acting wild. So, to pay for the Lux extension pack, well, how did Mike do this? Again, he's working all this overtime just to pay for what they already had. Ding, 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 ding. You guessed it. He's on the Dumb Dummies website. But he had to do something that he normally wouldn't do, because usually Mike wears a mask when he's on this website. Well, someone was willing to pay him $500 to take off his mask, which he did, and then they show him wearing a glove with his finger out before skipping forward in the scene. Presumably, he is going to be putting his finger up his butt. Well, Mike goes to work the next day, and everyone is staring at him, acting very weird, laughing, obviously talking behind his back. And at this point, Mike puts two and two together and realizes that slack-ass coworker showed everyone the video of Mike doing these things. Furious, Mike kind of loses it on this coworker, and they get into a little altercation. This coworker gets pushed and ends up being crushed by a heavy piece of machinery, causing Mike to lose his job. At this, Amanda is kind of freaking out. She's like, how are we going to pay for this? What are we going to do? Mike also is freaking out, but he's like, well, we'll just go to Rivermind and we'll explain our case. I mean, they've got to listen to us. So they go to Rivermind, and of course Rivermind does not accept their plea to continue on. She denies what they're asking, which is for, I believe, just to stay on the Riverside Plus. The rep denies this, and in the same conversation finds out that Amanda is actually trying to get pregnant, and explains to them that it's an additional $90 a month if she does get pregnant, because pregnancy is just such a strain on the mind. So we fast forward a year. We're on to their next year anniversary. At this point, Mike and Amanda both look awful. They look tired. It seems like Mike has been solely only making his money off the Dumb Dummies website. He's like missing a tooth. He's haggard, beaten up. And for Amanda, in her true tech fashion at this point, it seems that her tier has gotten worse as the company has been pushing everybody to upgrade. For their anniversary, Mike was able to afford just a 30-minute Rivermine Lux expansion pack, which Amanda uses to dial up her serenity all the way. She decides in that moment of serenity that it is time for her. She wants to be done with the tired and the stressed and the money, and Mike accepts, and honestly, I think Mike wants to be done with it too. Really hard on him. I don't think he would have chosen to be done with it, but I think he wanted to. In a nice way, not in like an asshole way. So it appears Mike doesn't make the next payment, and Amanda's tier drops back down into the common tier. Well, just like her pro tier got worse, it appears that the common tier has gotten worse as well, because she starts spitting out nothing but ads. Well, Mike then goes forward and ends Amanda's life, followed by his own. And that's where this episode ends. What I really like about Black Mirror is that it's presented as if the future were happening right now. For the most part, life in these episodes don't feel all that different, and these concepts never feel all that far-fetched. Not so much that we couldn't see ourselves living them. This episode had, I don't know, maybe like a 70s or kind of 80s retro style and feeling to it, but with a lot of futuristic content. But yeah, it just, I don't know, it almost feels like if we as society just had taken a slightly different path, like we could have been here where Mike and Amanda are. Because really, I mean, subscription services like really did this to us already. Not so dramatically, but if you think about it, in the beginning, when we first had some of our first subscription services, they always started as a cheaper alternative to something, or, a way to make our lives better. And then as that technology continued to grow and people became dependent on these services to the point where we're now unsure of how to live without them, that's when they started, upping the prices, making these different tiers, different classes, pushing people to upgrade. You don't want ads? Upgrade. Oh, your service is slower because more bandwidth goes to this tier now? Now you have to upgrade. And guess what? It works as a principle of business. I mean, it does. That's why everything is a subscription service now. Everything, I mean, you can get a subscription service for anything from underwear to food to entertainment to random boxes of crap that you don't even know what's going to be in it. So in my own humble opinion, I think this episode was really well done. This was a fantastic first episode. And as usual, Black Mirror has succeeded in making me recognize how crazy our own lives are by showing me something that is just really not that far from our own society. So that's Black Mirror, Season 7, Episode 1, Common People. And let me know what you guys thought of the episode. If you were in Amanda's shoes, what would you want to happen? Would you want to get this procedure done? And then if you were in Mike's shoes, how would you handle having that now extra pressure? Would it be something that you would do? I'm very interested to see what you all think about this. Alright, this is the part of the show where I tell you what we're recapping and reviewing for next week. Next week we'll be reviewing It Follows, a 2014 film directed by David Robert Mitchell. And we'll have a special guest reviewing with me next week. So that's exciting. You won't just have to listen to only my voice. There will be a new voice on the episode. So make sure you tune in next week for that. It Follows. Watch it now so that way you're ready for next week. And for the last order of business, we come to the book club corner. Again, for our book club this month, we are reading The Stand, that was written in 1978 by Stephen King. Again, I'm going to tell you spoiler alerts. If you have not read this book or are reading this book, I am 36% through this novel, so I'm going to be going over 36% of the character development and what's going on. So if you haven't read that far, you might want to just skip forward or skip out on this portion of the show. But let's start with a little recap on what happened prior. So what we know so far: Captain Trips, which was a virus that was created by the US government and accidentally has gotten released, has wreaked havoc across the world, killing 99.4% of the human population. Our characters that we're following are the few that are immune to the virus, and we left off with most of them being alone and just kind of starting to live in this empty new world. So I want to start off with Stu Redman, because when I had left off, I hadn't heard of Stu in a while, and I was wondering, well, what the hell is he doing? So Stu ended up being stuck in the hospital for a week. He knows things aren't going well, and he's kind of got this idea that he's about to be killed off because he has information that the government still doesn't want to give out or let get out. Although at this point the government's kind of collapsing. It's just kind of people still following older orders. So there's a doctor named Dr. Elder, I believe was his name. He comes in to probably off Stu, and Stu knows this. So Stu slams a chair against the man. He fights for the gun. He's able to kill this doctor and escape from the hospital. He decides to head towards the ocean, and while en route, he meets this eccentric, seemingly nice man named Bateman and a dog named Kojak. Now, I really liked Kojak. I wasn't sure about Bateman at first. I did not trust him. But Bateman offers Stu lunch and beer, which Stu accepts. They end up just kind of discussing the future of humanity, kind of what regrouping of society will look like. And Bateman describes a dream he's been having of a dark man who's looking for him, and we know this character as Randall Flagg. Stu ends up spending the night at Bateman's house and also has a dream about Randall. The next character we're catching up with is Lloyd Henreid. He is still stuck in prison. He's stuck in a prison cell, and at this point, he is starving to death. He's eaten all the food that he's tried to save up. He even ate a rat and a cockroach. He's almost out of water. He's been drinking water out of his toilet bowl in his jail cell. And it gets to the point where he's so hungry, he's able to scoot the dead man in the cell next to him close enough to his cell where he can go ahead and start eating his leg. So Lloyd is having a rough time. And I mean, you guys let me know what you think about this. I know Lloyd has done some awful things. I mean, he was killing people and stealing stuff and burglarizing and all that stuff. So I don't think Lloyd is a good person by any means. But I do find myself feeling really bad for him in this text. It's like the tortures of dying from starvation while trapped in a cage kind of make the death by electric chair look merciful. I kind of wish Lloyd could have just had that done before he got stuck here. But while Lloyd is laying there, just kind of waiting for everything to end, Randall Flagg shows up at the prison and says he will release Lloyd if Lloyd promises to serve him. Lloyd's super afraid of this guy. He's definitely getting some evil vibes, but he agrees. And with some magic, Flagg is able to release Lloyd from the prison, and now he has a new follower. It appears that Flagg is trying to start an army of supporters. That's what I'm thinking. And honestly, it's not a bad way to do it, going around saving the damned for their loyal support. That could work. And at the end of the day, I wonder, can you really blame Lloyd for his choice? It's kind of like, well, sit there and starve to death in a cell or be saved by this man. Right? I think we would all like to believe that we wouldn't be taken by some evil like that. But I do think that's really easy to say when we're, sitting at home not being tortured with a fridge full of food. we do have a new character. He's called the Trash Can Man. He has a real name, but he kind of goes by the Trash Can Man in the book. And I honestly, I'm going to be honest, I do not remember what his name was. But he's basically a mentally unstable arsonist. They give a really good background on him. Basically, his father, who was also kind of crazy, killed off his siblings and himself while his mother was able to escape with him. So he started setting some fires at a young age. He was sent to this mental facility for 2 years where he received a lot of like electric shock therapy. And when he comes out of there, he comes out more mentally unstable. Definitely more mentally unstable than when he left. I mean, he can't even learn in school. So at a young age, again, after he gets out of that facility, he ends up torching a Methodist church and is sent to prison. Well, after the virus hits, he goes back to his home, which is now empty, and there is a company, it's called the Cheery Oil Company, and they have some large gasoline storage tanks outside of the town that he has done nothing but dream of since he was a young child, and he really wants to light these off. So he does, and he climbs up there, drops a match into the oil tanks. This creates a huge explosion and subsequent fires in the area, and he now realizes that he has the ability to set fires to everything without any reprimand or backlash. That's as far as we get with this character, and I am curious to where this character is going to go. I wonder if he is going to catch up with Randall Flagg, if he's going to be like Randall Flagg's right-hand man, or maybe some weird opposing force to Randall Flagg, but I don't know if he's mentally stable enough to be a true opposing force, I guess. So we'll have to see. We do meet back up with Nick Andrews. The power in his city finally goes out, as it does around most of the US and what I'm guessing around most of the world. So he's walking around town, just kind of maybe looking for food. I don't remember exactly, but he is spotted by Randy, not to be confused with Randall Flagg. Now, Randy is one of the original people in the group that beats up Nick. Randy was the one who was able to get away and not get caught and not sent to jail. He still does end up sick. So Randy finds Nick walking around town and tries to kill him. Poor Nick, man. I'm like, just leave this kid alone. You already beat him up. You already did all this stuff. Just leave him alone. Well, Randy doesn't, of course, and he ends up gouging out one of Nick's eyes. During this fight, Nick attempts to pull out his gun in order to shoot Randy. He accidentally grazes his leg with his first shot, but his second shot does shoot Randy and does kill him. So at this point, Nick is both deaf, mute, and now blind in one eye. So Nick is having a really hard time, which sucks because Nick is one of my favorite characters and probably one of the best people in the book. Like, just, pure of heart, all that good stuff. But like I said, he starts taking care of his eye, and he doesn't really think about that leg wound that he has on his leg from the bullet. This wound ends up getting infected, and at this point, the infection spreads to his blood, and he thinks he might die. He's running a fever, he's starting to hallucinate, so he goes to the doctor's office to try to find some penicillin, which he finds and takes, but he does pass out, and during his pass out goes into this fever dream. Well, in this dream, he sees Randall Flagg, who attempts to take Nick as a follower, and he offers Nick the use of his voice and the sound of hearing. That's funny. But he offers him hearing and his voice back, and in the dream even shows him what this would be like. But Nick refuses this offer. He ends up waking up to his leg feeling sore, but ultimately better and healing. And after fully healing, Nick decides to leave town and continue on to, I believe it was Nebraska. Yes, it was Nebraska. And on his way to Nebraska, we meet Tom Cullen. Tom Cullen is, again, just a really good character. I'm really glad that they get together and are a unit because these are like two of the better individuals in this book for sure. But let me tell you about Tom Cullen. Tom Cullen is a mentally challenged individual, and similar to Nick, he has a heart of gold. He has very young, childlike tendencies, but bad news for Nick, Tom Cullen can't read. So communication between the two involves a lot of pantomiming on Nick's end, and Tom Cullen just kind of guessing what's going on. Well, Nick decides that he can't leave Tom out here on his own, so he does take Tom under his wing, and they bike together to Nebraska. And while en route to Nebraska, a tornado starts around them. Nick is unable to hear the tornado. He does feel the change in the atmosphere and kind of the pressure changes that happen with a tornado, but he doesn't hear it and doesn't know that it's coming. So Tom Collins ends up saving Nick's life by pulling on his shirt and telling him, hey, there's a tornado. And he just starts booking it to a cellar that is on the side of the road, kind of behind a house, that whole thing. So they enter the cellar. It's pitch black in there. There is a dead family down there who died from the virus that went around. But other than that and some rats, there's really nobody else in there. But when they're in the cellar, they do feel like someone is watching them. And this is from Nick's perspective, where he says it feels, it felt like someone was in there with them. Someone was in there watching them. And when they exit the cellar, these feelings are pretty much confirmed by Tom, who also says that someone was in the cellar with them. I believe he said someone evil with red eyes was watching them. And that's where we're going to leave Nick and Tom Cullen right now. We're going to move on to Larry Underwood. As this book continues, I'm hating Larry. At first, you didn't really see what everyone was talking about with Larry. He just seemed like a regular guy who was maybe a little selfish at times. Well, now I'm seeing what everyone was talking about. Larry meets an older woman named Rita in New York. They end up having sex and becoming something of a unit, similar to, Tom and Nick. They become a unit, and he ends up taking care of Rita, but they decide to leave New York and head west. The city stinks. Literally, it stinks because there's so many dead bodies. It's dangerous. Rita's on the fritz, and they just decide to leave. So I questioned this. I was like, well, why is Larry taking care of Rita? It's obvious that she gets on his nerves. He's always annoyed with her, and he's really mean to her, like a lot, through their whole interactions. And so, yeah, I think the only reason Larry is actually taking care of Rita is for his own selfishness. First, Larry doesn't want to be alone. He's scared, so he's using this woman just to not be alone. Now, I do believe Rita is also using him. I think she used sex and acts of service as a way to keep Larry to help her. But either way, at least she's fucking nice. Larry makes her feel like shit about everything. Well, they end up leaving the city, and Rita suffers an injury from a poor choice of shoes. Larry, in true Larry fashion, screams in her face he's a total ass, so she leaves him. He kind of gives this half-ass attempt to wait for her and to call her, but decides to continue. To continue, though, he has to go through one of the highway tunnels that leads out of Manhattan into New Jersey, which is pitch black and filled with like all these cars and dead bodies. And at this point, Larry is realizing just how much he actually needed Rita, because he is in this tunnel all by himself, scared out of his mind. It should have been like a quick 20-minute walk is what they said, and it was taking him longer. He's like shuffling his feet, he's trembling, which, I mean, okay, I can't blame him, because I would be the same way. I'd probably be scared as hell. Maybe not so much about, like dead bodies or ghosts. I'd be more afraid that there were like living people down there that were going to attack me. But either way, at this point, he's wishing that he never yelled at Rita and that she was still with him. And I do think another reason that he wanted to be with Rita and take care of her was that because taking care of Rita kind of gave him a purpose. It made him feel stronger in a way. So again, I think all of that really comes down to selfishness. But we'll get back to the tunnel. He's in there. He's losing it. He starts hearing some what sounds like footsteps behind him, like someone's breathing behind him, and in pure panic, he turns around and just starts shooting up the tunnel. Once his clip is empty and he starts listening again, he hears Rita calling out for him. It was her in the tunnel, and luckily, somehow, she was not shot. So they meet back up. He promises that he's going to take care of her. They have a really, sweet ginger moment together. Did I just say ginger? I meant tender. They have a very sweet tender moment together, where he kisses her eyes and kisses her face, and he's promising that he's going to be nice to her from now on. But the thing is, through his actions so far, Larry's just not a good person, and he's not a nice person at his core. And I totally expected that if Larry were to find someone else that he could maybe get more out of, or that he found less annoying than Rita, he would ditch her in a heartbeat. I believe that 100%. But they make their way out of the tunnel, and they're riding some motorcycles. They're exiting the city, getting more into the woods. They're camping, and one morning Larry wakes up ready to get it on with Rita. He steps outside, uses the restroom, comes back, and realizes Rita is dead. She purposefully overdosed on her medication. And Larry is upset, but not for the reason that you would think. He's not upset that Rita has passed away, that this person that he's been spending time with, or that, this person that is just simply a person has passed away. He's disgusted that he was in the tent all night with her while she was dead. He's disgusted that he slept next to a dead body. He's disgusted that she has some vomitus around her. And he's happy that he's not with Rita anymore, because he's happy that she won't slow him down. Like I said, Larry's not a good person, and the only thing that he seems to be sad or worried about now is that he is alone. So Larry, he's a huge dick, and that's as far as we got with his character. The last character that we go over here is Franny Goldsmith. Franny Goldsmith is definitely another character I really like. I think she's a good person. So Franny and her neighbor Harold become kind of a group together. Harold likes Franny, but it's obvious that she doesn't feel the same way about him, which is fine. She was never really close with Harold before, and so they seem like a weird mix together, and I was kind of thinking, well, is this a similar situation to Larry Underwood? Are they just together because, they're people, but really they hate each other, and is she just using him? But I don't think that's the case, and here is why. Although Franny isn't romantically involved with Harold, or doesn't romantically have feelings for him like Harold does, she still cares about him at a human level. And that's just because she's just a good person. She's not just thinking about, oh, what can I get from him, or what can he provide to her, like how Larry acted with Rita. So Franny and Harold decide that they should try to go to Vermont. And this is because Harold, who reads a lot and is very smart, heard that there's a disease research center up there, and they might be able to find some sort of authority or, surviving societal structure. Well, when en route, they do come across Stu Redman. I was shocked to see them kind of match up and meet each other, and I think that was really cool. But Stu Redman has the unfortunate job of giving them the bad news that he actually just came from that facility, and it's a no-go for them. There's nobody up there, and it has fallen just like the rest of the world. During this whole interaction, Harold is also really showing his ass to Stu, because he's jealous, I guess. He's jealous that Stu might become romantically involved with Franny. Harold seems like he's taken it on that he's the protector of Franny Goldsmith, and yeah, he's just being a jerk the whole time to Stu, and it's really making Franny kind of mad. I thought the assumptions that Harold was making here were way out of left field and so random, but I kind of let that fly. I mean, Harold is only 17 years old, and Stu ends up having a heart-to-heart with Harold, letting him know that he is not interested in Franny. And so we think, okay, well, good. Hey, they're all on the same page now. Harold kind of accepted that. But then after spending some time with her, Stu realizes that he is interested in Franny. And I feel like that's really weird. Because my thought is, isn't Stu like way older than Franny? I believe Franny's in her, young to mid 20s. And Stu used to have he has like an ex-wife, and like he's just much older. So I was kind of like, oh no. Where's that going? And at this point, that's kind of the end of book 1. I might have delved a little bit into book 2 just to kind of create a cohesive structure here, but really I made it through most of book 1. So yeah, what do you think about our characters so far? How do you guys feel about Larry? Is Larry sticking with Rita different than Franny sticking with Harold in your mind? What about Lloyd Henreid accepting Randall Flagg's help? Do you think he really had the opportunity to decline it like Nick Andros did? And how do we feel about Stu Redman? I really hope he doesn't get weird because I really liked him as a character. And lastly, where do we think Trash Can Man is going to end up? Let me know what you guys think. But for now, that will be the end of our book club, which brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you again, guys, for hanging out with me. I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to review, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I said, it really helps out the podcast. And if you have a short story that you want read aloud on the podcast, or if you have a movie that you want reviewed, or a book that you want us to read for the next book club, go ahead and send those suggestions to our email. That's bloodinkpodcast@gmail.com. And last but not least, make sure to check out next week's episode where we come to you with a fresh, brand new Fright Bite, and I have a special guest on the show that's going to review It Follows, so check out that movie this week. Other than that, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.